I just want to say sorry. Sorry for the jokes. Sorry for hosting. Sorry for the question, but sorry for arranging the chairs in the wrong spot. Three. Yeah, Chris, I told you not to put it there. You and Nate. Now look, you just made me look bad in public. So I guess I'll just sort of move over here then. You guys can see all right, which is great. But these guys truly do have a wealth of information and an amazing experience with raising kids, all at different ages and different amounts of kids. But what I'd love you to do, first of all, I'd love you just to introduce yourself. So if people are watching online or if people are new here and don't know who you are, just tell us who you are, how old you are, your birth sign, how many kids you got, how old your kids are, what's them. No, you don't have to do all that. Just who you are and who you're married to, how many kids you got, how old they are, so we can really get a feel of how old your kids are. So why don't we start with you, Jules?
I am Julie, married to Chris. I have 4 kids, 3 daughters and 1 son, ranging from 30 down to 22. Had to think about that. So, yeah, that's who I am, and age is 52, if you really want to know.
All right, well, I'm married to... I'm on? Yep. I'm married to Mark, and my name is Sheree, and, yeah, the awesome joke teller. And I have 6 children. One is 29 next week, and here we go. Here we go. 27 last week, and then I have a 4-year-old, thanks, Kirsty, a 21-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So, yeah.
Shamed me. You just shamed me because I couldn't think of
the
middle 2, so I just went from here to here.
So, yeah. So, and I can do their birthdays, but I won't. And, yeah, and what else was the question? What else?
Just how many kids and how old they are.
Oh, that's it.
And how old you are.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was optional.
53. And I have 2 grandchildren. And you have a few too.
I'm Kirsty. I'm married to Samuel, the one with the crutches, if you see him. I have 2 children, 2 little boys. Dallas, who's 4 tomorrow. And Blaze, who is like 18 months old now. Yeah. And I'm 21 years old.
I got kids older than you.
No, 29.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What I'm pointing out is that there's a wealth of experience from everything from toddlers right up to basically being married and getting grandkids. So I want to start off with this, and Jules or Kirsty or Sheree, whoever, just tell everyone, what is the best thing about having kids? Like the best thing, like.
When your son picks your nose on the front, just there.
Okay. Best.
The best thing is, well, when you've got a tribe of them, you've got your own tribe. So especially as they turn into, because I'm an adult mum now, so and I think too you've got a whole tribe, so you've got an army of people, and when we all fall down, there's an army to pick us back up. So we're a unit, we're a strong family unit. That's probably been the best thing as they've been growing up. We just made it fun along the way, because 4 kids is full on, and so we just made it as fun as best we could, did stupid things, so yeah.
Very, very good. Sheree, what is the funniest thing out of that you would say has ever happened with, well, I guess they're my kids as well, but our kids. What do you reckon the funniest thing is?
You're responsible for most of this.
Me?
Most of the stuff I'll probably talk about is your genetics. But no, I mean...
If anyone wants to send me a sympathy card after this service, feel free to do so. I feel like I'm getting pretty hammered up here. But anyway, go for it, babe.
Funny things. Well, my kids were, especially my boys, having the 4 boys, were just full-on kids. And so I had, actually, even the other day, so Sam's been out of school for probably 12 years, something like that. And I had to pop into Busways because someone had lost a card on the bus, and the manager there still knows me by name. You know, how's Sam going? Has he survived into adulthood? Yes. So they were crazy. A lot of fun crazy, and a lot of tears crazy as well. Jonas, as you would have heard me share, was when he turned 3, he turned into a psychopath. And he decided that he was just so destructive. He would cut everything with scissors. So we had to hide anything that was sharp, because if he got his hands on it, he would destroy whatever. I had vertical blinds cut in half. I had a cat that had a little kitten that had its ear chopped 3/4 of the way through. We had I bought him this beautiful bear. We were in Singapore, and I bought him this gorgeous bear that was full of those thousands of little beads. You know, that really nice sensory bead things. I put him to bed one day for afternoon sleep, and I thought, oh, he's been asleep for a couple of hours. I'll go and wake him up and, you know, see how what's he's up to. And he had ripped this thing with a pair of scissors, like multiple. He probably stabbed it about 200 times. And I said to Mark, should we be scared? Like, this is just, the whole floor was just white from one end to the other. But, yeah, so it wasn't fun then. It's funny when I look back now about how crazy he was. And I had another story, but I can't think what it was, because there's so many of them.
Was it when he dropped the light into the fish tank and electrocuted all the fish?
Electrocuted Sam's fish.
Because that was a good
I had
day.
somebody over, and we were downstairs having a nice cup of tea, and I should have realised he'd gone very quiet for about 30 seconds. And he'd climbed up the stairs, straight into his brother's room, picked the whole light up off the top of the fish tank and put it into the fish tank, short-circuited the whole house. And I didn't know you could burn water. He burnt... So there was about that much sludge on the top of the fish tank.
Salt water.
And all the fish were floating on the top when I ran upstairs. But he wasn't the only one. Like, the other kids all got up to naughty things as well. But he was just... I didn't think we'd survive 3-year-old Jonas. But we did. We survived 3-year-old Jonas. But, yeah.
But, I mean, we're talking about some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, and I think that this would relate to more people than, say, perfect kids.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, oh, you got perfect kids, it's fine. But the kids that you get are not perfect. It's sort of like God gives us them to mould them and shape them. Yeah. And even though, because this one's Jonas, and we had, the others, you know, did similar things. But even though we had that, the love that a mother has is unconditional. And I guess that the thing that I want to point out is to everyone, you know, not just chatting up here on the panel, that kids aren't perfect. They do the wrong things. They can do things by accident. They can do things without thinking. But our love for our kids must never be broken. It must never, ever be taken away. And if you've got kids, whether they're young kids or old kids, no matter what they do, I think that the door should be open and that unconditional love should flow out. And I'm sure that you have all got stories that relate to that.
And into adulthood too, because that's still, you know, there are still times, even though that, you know, four out of the 6 of my kids are adults now, that you still have to get into their grottiness with them and love them through it anyway. You know, it doesn't stop when they turn 18 and they're off your hands and that's it. It's sort yourself out. You're still, as a mum, I don't think that's obviously ever going to end. That you still get in to all the grotty, yucky bits and you love them through it anyway, you know. And
the love is unconditional.
Absolutely unconditional. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, I mean, Jules, you've got older kids. You will learn this, Kirsty. It's just a matter of time. But you've got older kids, and no matter what they do or what they go through, you're there for them.
Absolutely. The door is open, and some of them have made stupid decisions, foolish decisions, unwise decisions, as I did, as you know, navigating through life. So we certainly didn't raise 4 sweet kids, but you know, we just love them through it, and we're unshockable, you know. So you just get to the point where you're unshockable. Yes, so you just navigate each thing as it comes along, with wisdom, with empathy, with care, and you get through it. It's surprising that you get through each thing, each hard season, you actually get through it. So I think you've really just got to embrace it and just go, okay, this is a season. Embrace it. Keep praying, and have a friend that you can just go, wow, this is so hard, you know. You just got to be able to go bleh to someone in a safe place sometimes. So
and I think it's important that people know that. And if you're watching today or you're sitting here, it's not about whether, as a mum or a dad, that your kids are perfect. It's about whether you can just trust God and walk with them no matter what. I mean, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but what do you have an example, Jules, of what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to do with your kids, and how did you cope with it as a mum, or how are you working through it or working through it? What would be the without, you don't have to give details now, but what's the hardest thing?
I can't sort of give details because it's their story.
Yeah, of course.
But certainly they've told me things that I really wanted to protect them from, that I thought, please don't do that, and they've done that. So it's left, your heart breaks. You really do, your heart breaks. And so I can remember one particular time I just needed a hot minute, and I just needed to leave the house and just go for a walk, and I couldn't face any of them. With this particular one, I just needed to leave the house and just walk about in the dark by myself, crying. I was just I really just broke my heart. And that was the first one, I suppose. So you're just adjusting to it. You get through it though, and you adjust. You got to speak to your husband about it. You pray about it together, which we do over our kids. And as they get adults, they go through then adult problems. So that's probably been my toughest season, is having adult kids. And you sort of think, I can't wait till the kids get to adulthood. But then they come with adult problems that your heart breaks when their heart's breaking. So to navigate that, we actually, as a family, when it really gets really hard, we pray together as a family. Stand united together, because there's power in unity, and there's power of us being together and just praying about it. We're not long-winded prayer people. We just in and out quick, you know, but we're all together in a circle, and we just go, God, we commit this to you in the name of Jesus. This is hard. We recognise that it's hard, and we just are there for each other. And it's hard season. It's hard, you know. It's hard, and I just think come to church, you know. Come to church. Make sure you come. This has to be a safe place where we can land when we're having our worst weeks, when we're having our worst season. This has to be a really safe place where we can just go, well, this is it. I'm walking in crying. I'm walking out crying. But, you know, something happens when we corporately worship together and when we stand together. Like, it's just something happens. Don't give up worshipping. Don't give up praising, because that opens up. It opens up the atmosphere. So when you're going through a hard season, you make sure you stay on your knees. You make sure you're praising God. It's the last thing you feel like doing, but you've got to go, a bit like what Lee said, come on, soul, we're praising, we're tapping in. We're going to praise him. You will get through it.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. I mean, there's three things I heard when you were speaking there that stood out to me. Number one of the hardest things is when you tell them not to do something and then they go and do it. The second thing was take a minute for yourself while you're coping with what's happening. And the third thing is involve God in it. Yeah, which is just brilliant. I mean, I'm just listening to you, just going, it's such good advice. Kirsty, young mums. What would be your key bit of advice for mums that have got young kids? Like, you know, they're under 10. You're right in the middle of this.
Drop them at the grandparents' house. No.
Is that now I know what's going on.
I think allow room for mistakes. Like, allow the atmosphere that you're in the season that you're in. allow yourself to make mistakes,
Yeah,
because I feel, mum guilt breeds anxiety, it breeds depression, and it absolutely breeds sadness. We take motherhood so seriously, especially at the moment. Dallas is in OT and has been in speech, and it is exhausting.
Yeah.
And I have to time and time again tell these worldly teachers, look, I'm not your regular mum. I'm somebody who believes in the name of Jesus. So you may tell me that Dallas's strong-willedness is a fault, but to me it's not.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. So I have to constantly bring it back to Jesus.
That's
Constantly
so good.
bring it back to Jesus. And those moments of overwhelm, I can't, there could be a river of tears I've cried as a young mum, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is so overwhelming, but I've had to just allow myself to make mistakes. I've got to allow it, because again, mum guilt eats you alive. At the end of the day, you could have the best day as a family, like the very best, and you still are laying in bed going, did I give my kids everything today? It's just I don't know why we do it, because we love our kids, and that's why we do it. But allow yourself to make mistakes. Just invite them. When I invite the mistakes, what I do when I have a shocker as a mum, because I get it wrong way more than I get it right, and if I've had a shocker, I'll make sure that when I put either of the kids to bed, especially Dallas, because he's at that age of sort of understanding compassion and sorries, I will always say sorry. I will always say, Dallas, I'm so sorry. Mummy, lost it today, or Mummy got cranky with you today. And kids are so beautiful. They are the most graceful people. They are so innocent. That's okay, Mummy. Love you. Good night. And then I'm undone. I'm like, I don't deserve you. But again, then you're instilling compassion, and you're instilling kindness, and you're instilling this, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but sorry. Do you know what I mean? You're looking for those sorries, and they're important, because then your child, if they can speak, go, I'm sorry, Mummy. Like Dallas does that now. I'm sorry, Mummy. And I'm like, it's okay, babe. It's okay. Invite the mistakes, and
so
leave no room for mum guilt.
Yeah.
I love that. With no room for mum guilt. Can I just say something to our young mums? Because there's so much information out there these days. You can Google everything. Like, you Google everything, and then there's apps for everything. And I have said to my girls as they've become mums, trust that instinct that God has put on the inside of you. Women are born with women's instinct. That's how we know. We know stuff, guys. We just know. It's women's instinct. And God has gifted that with us. And then when we become mums, it crosses over to a mum instinct. And so God has gifted you these children for you to raise. And so sometimes it might, just in your gut, in your knower, as Lynn Pop says, you just know.
That's good.
So sometimes you've got to tap into that mum instinct. I know, and you can't Google that, and you can't look that up on an app. And sometimes you've got to allow that to develop. Trust your mum instinct, because sometimes you just know. And you just got to go with the instinct, don't you reckon?
That's so good. This one on mum guilt is a big thing, and there's so much wisdom coming out of you guys, and people are going to have to watch this again. But when we got married, and sometimes the people that we think are putting guilt on us, they're just trying to help us. They're just trying to give us advice. But what they've done is, in my opinion, for some of them, it's not a fixed rule, so no one get upset with me. But sometimes they've raised their kids or done what they've thought. They've made the mistakes, and then they get older. Now they've got all the advice for you, as if like you're not going to make mistakes. And one of the things that I found, and this is for young mums and dads as well, a lot of us have to make our own mistakes with our own kids. And it's not that people can just tell you what to do and all of a sudden you're the best parent. You get all this advice so everything's perfect. You work it out on the job. And every child is different, every parent is different, every mixture of all of that is different. And to allow yourselves to make mistakes and know it's not going to be perfect, and then learn from those mistakes and trust God, is got to be the best thing. You can listen to advice from mother-in-laws, parent-in-laws, father-in-laws, other people that know more. But at the end of the day, you've got to make the choice for your child, and don't feel guilty if you're not the perfect parent. That's such a good one. Yeah. Sheree, let me just move on to this one. I've got a question for you. What is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you as a parent? The scariest thing?
Quite a few years ago now, we were down as a family in Sydney, and we were at Darling Harbour, and we were enjoying the sunshine and hanging out, and Mark said to me, look, go and check over there and see how much the prices are for this particular thing, and I'll stay here with the kids. And I said, sure. So off I went. He sat down with the kids. I was gone for about 20 minutes, and I came back and I noticed that Summer was missing. So at the time she was 3. And back then Darling Harbour was not fenced off, so it was just big open water, and that moment of panic to know that she'd been gone for 20 minutes. It was a really busy day. There was hundreds and hundreds of people around. She was a little girl who could not swim. So Zeke was only a baby in the stroller, and the rest of the kids obviously were a little bit older, ranging from, 5, from about 8 upwards. And I just remember saying, God, help me find her. And we just split up. 7 of us or 6 of us split up and raced around, and eventually she was found. She was actually found by 2 young girls who then took her to security, and security happened to be walking past, and I saw them with her. And it was just the most, and you know what, and I have people say, oh, well, that's ridiculous. That's why you have so many kids, because you lose them all, and it's a nightmare. And you know what I learnt that day? That there was so much power in the numbers that we had. And, what could have been an absolute catastrophe, and we, may not have found her for a long time, because we separated and we found her. And I'm going to say, I've had so much pushback for the amount of children that I chose to have. And I want to tell anybody here that even if you're not close to having kids but down the track, don't ever allow people's opinion of your situation determine your future. I've had so many snarky comments. I mean, your typical ones. You know what causes it? Yeah. I remember a lady said to me once, she said, gee, you must really like kids. And I said, no, I really like my husband. When I left the shop, I was in a shop, she was still rolling on the ground laughing at that one. But it's just it's pushback that's unsolicited advice. You don't want it. You do what you feel is right. I remember once on social media, I made some comment. I was doing something and I mentioned that I had 6 children. I can't even remember what the context of it was. And some guy got on and he just absolutely attacked me. It's people like you that is destroying the world. You're overpopulating it. I'm like, yeah, my little 6 kids are overpopulating it. So there is negativity that comes from every area. But you know what? We have been so blessed, and we just know none of my children were a mistake. It was a God thing, and it's been a God thing the whole way, and that's how I've survived raising them, and it's how I survive still raising them now, that they're purposed and they're destined, and they're not going to fit into the mould that everybody wants them to have, or me, all the expectations I had as a mum when I first had Samuel. Oh my gosh, by 6 months of age, I don't know what I'm doing here, because you have not fitted into anything that I thought was going to happen. And every single one of them has proven to be their own person, their own issues, their own gifts, their own different ways of responding to parenthood, like to us as parents disciplining them. And it's been a constant thing for us. But my whole point in this is, those 6, all the pushbacks in the world that I've got for having 6 children, there are times when God just reminds me, this is not for an accident. This was purposed in your life. I did not intend to have 6 children. God just opened that door for that to happen. I'm pretty sure if I'd told Mark when we were getting married that we were going to have 6 children, I don't know if we actually would have got married.
2.
2 was what he always said. So, and I always wanted 4, so we just added them together. And so don't listen to opinions. Like, people are always going to give it to you. They're always going to say you're doing this wrong or you're doing this, you should do this differently. You know what? Just don't get angry about it. Don't get bitter about it, and don't take it to heart.
Yeah.
Just, you know what? I'm doing my own thing. I'm traveling the journey that God has. And as God's proven to me time and time again, he's in control.
Yeah.
He's got it sorted. You know, I just got to keep listening to him and raising my kids as I pray, God, give me wisdom in this. So.
Yeah. I mean, one of the main things about that story, because obviously I was there and I thought Summer was with you and you thought she was with me, but the takeaway from what you just said was that if you can get your kids, and I believe mine are, that actually like each other. Like, so many people say, I hate my brother, or I hate this, or I hate that, or we never got on when we grew up. Our 6 kids like each other, support each other, go to war for each other, get together and go to war against me. They are united front, and it's you say something about me and my kids will stand up for me. You say something about one of my other kids, the other kids will stand up for them. And no matter who it is or what's going on, there's this bond that God has blessed them with, and we've nurtured it. That they will be there for each other, and they'll be there for us, and we're there for them. And it's not just saying, oh, mums are there for the kids are there for the mum, and my kids are there for me. And having that family that's got each other's back regardless, and the more kids you got, and have all of them that have got each other's back. I mean, our kids are friends with each other. Like, they holiday to each other. Like, Summer goes on holidays with Kai. It's more than just support, that they're actually friends. And I just think that's something worth nurturing and encouraging. And that started way back then when we lost Summer and they all went and, did it. Okay, Jules, I've got to wrap this up. But I do have just one more question, or a couple more questions, maybe 2 more. But the other 2 didn't want to answer this one, because I texted them the questions and I said, what do you think about this one, Sheree? She said, I'm not answering that. And then I said to Kirsty, and she said, I'm not answering that. And I thought, okay, well, Jules is, fairly wise and pretty switched on, and maybe she'll answer it. But this is the question, okay? This is the question. I come up with this question. The question is this: what advice could you give on how husbands could support you more as a mum? No, you do not.
This is going to cause fights, Mark.
It's not about your husband. It's,
every husband, and that's the whole church will walk out.
So it's not about Sam or Chris or myself. I just thought, with the wisdom that you've had, what advice could you give husbands to support their wife more? No advice?
No, okay.
Oh, there is something?
No, firstly, to the women, first of all, because you know how we always think men should just read our minds? Yeah. So, like, Chris would get home from work and I'm just like, because I'd had a day, and so I'm like, read this. Like, yeah. So sometimes I think that we just got to communicate, like, seriously, because, men actually don't read minds, although us women are quite good at it. But men, we can't, they can't read our minds. So we do have to communicate. And I think too, that the guy, we all work a lot these days too, but back in the day, when I had Locke, I was blessed enough to stay home for that season until he started school. But I'd had a hot day too. Like, I know Chris had a hot day because he worked as a boilermaker in 40-degree heat, and he used to come home in all sorts of not good, because it was just so hot. And he'd walk in the door and I'd just feel like, well, I'd had a day too. And then there's, we had with our kids, because we were sporty, so there was always sporty family. So there was always after school things that I took our kids to as well. But yeah, I think sometimes you just got to talk about it, because they're not mind readers, and just understand that even though you've had a day, you've been out working, but the situation's changed now because the mums work at the same time. So that creates a whole different thing in the household. And I actually have walked through that season too, where we've both worked full time. So you've really got to communicate. And when one just needs a break, you just got to go. A good walk around the block seriously does you wonders. Sometimes I used to do that with Chris. I just realised I need to get out of here just for 5 minutes, and then I'm good. Can tackle the 5 p.m. crazies. So you just got to communicate, because now you all work.
I like that.
So yeah.
I like that. So basically what you're saying, just rehashing it back, the thing that guys could do better to help and support their wives is that the wives could communicate more, so we know what to do. Is that what you're saying?
This is so... Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Or did I miss something?
You forgot about the walk. Just chat. You just need to chat, because I don't have any advice for you. I just don't.
It's not for me. It's for the church and for the viewers. But basically, the communication's good.
Excellent.
Because sometimes we get in trouble for stuff that we don't know. And we get in trouble for stuff that we didn't know that we do. So if you guys communicated better and said, hey, I would like this done, or I've had a big... No, I think it's great. Oh, that's good advice, isn't it, guys? If the girls told us more, we're happy to oblige and help.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Really, that question shouldn't have even been asked. I really feel I was set up for that.
You were, Jules.
No, that's good.
I walked into it.
What do you want to chip in now, babe, and say what husband?
No, we're good.
Good.
There's no winning of that
You
one.
know why? You know why there's no comment? Because she likes me a lot. She doesn't want to put any wedge in between us and her, which is amazing. Okay,
We'll go with that one.
These are the last two questions, and you can answer them in any order, and anyone can answer them. But the things I want to wrap up on is this: is there any one-liner advice to teenagers of how to treat their mothers better? And the second question is, because this is it, we're done, is how would you explain, or how would you like to comment on being a spiritual mum? Because we've also got, we've got the natural mums that are looking after the family, but in a church there's spiritual mums. Yeah. And those spiritual mums are looking after children or people that are younger than them, and some of them are mothered because for whatever reason they don't have a spiritual mum. Yeah. So is there a one-liner of what you could say to teenagers to make your job easier, and chat to me about what it's like to be a spiritual mum? Well, you give me the one-liner about teenagers.
Well, I don't obviously have teenagers, but I was a youth pastor for a hot minute.
Well, you'd have a
hot minute.
one-liner.
The only thing that I would encourage, if you are a teenage mum, or you're coming into that season, really allow your child to have somebody they could go to. For a lot of years, I was for instance, I was that person for Georgia where she could confide in me and tell me what's going on. And if it was I could deflect whether she was being dramatic or whether she was being serious, because being a teenager is it's hard work. You're going through a lot. And if things were serious that she wasn't necessarily wanted to come to mum to, because you do get in trouble, I was able to have a relationship with Sam and bring that to her in a safe environment. So I could just encourage, if your child doesn't have somebody, get around those beautiful people in this church, especially. Yeah. Get your teenage boy or girl around somebody that they can have a safe haven in. That's my only
spiritual mum or dad.
Just that spiritual safe haven, realistically.
Sure. Sheree, I mean, you are one of the best spiritual mums I know, simply because I know how many appointments you have. I know how many DMs you have and inboxes you have on Facebook. Tell me a little bit about what you do, and how could you encourage more spiritual mums to do a little bit about what you do?
It's an absolute privilege to be a spiritual mum, and I have found probably an extremely rewarding to be able to step in when either mum's absent or mum's never been on the picture, and just to be able to be that sounding board and that cheerleader, and just really encourage young, and mainly young women. I have also obviously mothered some young men in our church too, but especially the young women who are now becoming mothers of their own, and being able to see them through those tough years of teenagehood where navigating is a nightmare. And because teenage years are just its own beast on its own, you know. Even when Mark and I had, we did youth passes for 7 years, and I thought that would actually prepare me for when my children were became teenagers, but it did not. And even having a few teenagers go ahead, even with my younger ones, it's still a thing that you navigate. But it's been such a privilege, and I just love that I can be that to the young men and women in this church. And I love that they trust me enough with the hard things of their heart to help them through that. I was blessed because I have very incredible parents. So I was blessed to be brought up in a very stable, loving home. But I know as we get older and as the generations come, that's less and less. And even with my children's generation, when Sam was in year 11 and 12, he was the only kid in his whole year that still had his parents still together. So it's more the norm now to have broken families than it is to have complete families. And so I want to encourage everybody in this church, because it's now the norm to come from very broken families, we all need to step up and become spiritual parents to people and to be incredible mums and dads. And, you know, sometimes this is one thing I've learned over the years. I do not have the answers to every situation, but I do have a hug, and I do have love, and I do have an encouraging word, and I draw out the best in them. I may not have an answer for a situation, but I am there as a support. And every one of us needs to do that. You know, when we become insular, we don't help anybody. It's not how God intended it. And I just count it such a privilege, I really do, to be a mum to so many people in this church and people outside of this church too. I've got lots of girls that I actually mentor and coach a lady, and I can't even call her a young lady. She's probably in her late 30s, early 40s. I've never even met her. I know her brother, but I have never met her. And she messages me usually once a week. I've had friends from school that reach out and just say, I know you're a pastor. Can you help me? Can you give me advice? So it's not just about being available to people in your world that are broken and hurt in the church world, but to be a spiritual person to other people, and even people that aren't spiritual themselves, that aren't looking for that. And I just count it a great joy. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, that God's given me a mother's heart to do that. And I know that is never, ever going to end. That's just going to be a part of who I am. And it is a great joy, and it's a great privilege, especially when you see them walk through those horrendous situations and then walk into a stable life and start to break all of the toxic stuff that they were brought up with and raise their own family under God. And it's just amazing. It's the best thing. So,
so good. Very, very good. Jules, did you have anything you want to add as a spiritual mum, or we're going to wrap it up?
I think Sheree's answered that very well. It's a privilege, and create room, make room, because you've just got to be there, you know. And it's not just for girls that have got broken homes. It's I know, Sheree, you mentored one of my girls, so you know, didn't come from a broken home, but it was just another outside perspective to help her navigate teenage years. So I recommend it that everyone have someone. A mentor.
No, look, I totally agree. You know, you guys have got so much wisdom, and we could go forever, but I really enjoyed what you just said. But as the band comes, and as I dismiss you before you go, I just want to publicly honour all three of you. Kirsty, you are a good mum, and you know, I've seen how you raise your kids, which are my grandkids, and you're a good mum. And there's no need for you to feel mum guilt about anything, because I know how much you do for them, and how much you go the extra mile for them. So I want to say you're a good mum. Sheree, you are a good mum. I have been with you for a lot of years now, and I have seen how you've raised our kids and how you've snapped them when they need snapping and you know, loved them when they need loving. I mean, sometimes in our house it's like good cop, bad cop. You know, I'm ripping their head off and Sheree's telling them it's all right, or Sheree's ripping their head off and I'm saying it's okay, it's just mum. You know, it's a really good mix. But at the end of the day, the Bible says, by your fruit you will know them. And you have good fruit from the time and energy that you've put into it. And Jules, same for you. Your kids are amazing. They're all in church. They're all serving God. You know, they're married. They have married well. The ones that have married well. And you and Chris have always been there for them. I know you are. And I know how you go the extra mile and how much you pray and care for them. And it's not just your own kids. The red path of you supporting and praying for the one, you know, where they've lost and they've gone from God. I just want to say that all three of you are amazing mums in the natural. You're amazing wives in the natural. And you're amazing mums in the spirit. And we've been honoured to have you guys here today. So let's give them a great big round of applause. And let's invite Lee and the guys. They're going to come up.